Okay, so you got a project to turn in. Take two numbers and display this information about them. You type in your code in Visual Studio, computing all the logic. Looks good. You run your code and it opens up in the terminal. While everything seems to be running smoothly, you think to yourself, wow, this is pretty ugly. If I'm gonna turn this project in, whether it's to school, to a job application, or etc., having your code display in something other than the terminal can be a game changer. I'm not gonna lie, this past semester, I had a D in my networking class. I turned in my final project using the Tkinter app. Receiving full points on the project, I was able to bump my grade up to a B+ and pass the class. If I did not use the Tkinter module and just kept all my logic in the terminal, I probably would not have passed. So how do we go from the terminal to these great looking applications? That is what we are going to be looking at today. We are going to be learning about the Tkinter library in Python. Stick around and you're going to learn how to build an amazing looking app. So we got our logic already, right? The premise of it is to input two numbers and then it prints all this information about the numbers. The sum of the numbers, the difference, the product, the quotient, and modular. If you don't know what modular is, that's okay. Let's say you have two numbers that don't divide well into each other. Let's take the two numbers 19 and 8. If you divide 19 by 8, you get 2, because 8 goes into 19 2 times. 8 times 2 is 16. The difference between the 16 and the 19 is what's called modular. So 19 mod 8 would be 3. That was a quick little lesson on modular, but let's actually get into building this app. The first thing we have to do is actually import the Tkinter library. So to do this, the best practice that I like to do is type from Tkinter import asterisk. The difference between doing from Tkinter import asterisk and import Tkinter is that with the first library, we don't have to put tk in front of all the Tkinter variables that we declare, which is going to save us a lot of time. Trust me. So after we do from Tkinter import asterisk, let's start building windows. I'm going to rename this function logic so that we can make a new function called main that's actually going to create the windows. The first thing that we have to do when creating a Tkinter app is deciding how many windows do we want, how complex do we want the application to be, because it gets very complex. This is only going to be a basic tutorial, so we're not going to be going over canvases, images, things like that. But if you want a separate tutorial that goes more in depth, then let me know in the comments and I'll get on that. Since we're not doing images and we're only sticking to a one window program, we are going to start by saying when equals tk. Now what this does is it creates a Tkinter window. Now within every window we have to put this as well, when dot main loop. Now what this does is it opens the window and whatever is inside of this between the two statements is going to run as long as the window's open. So if we just run this right now, we should get a window. No way. Now the first thing that you might notice when you open this window is that it's named TK. And if you want your program to have some individuality, let's change this TK to what we're going to call the app. In this case, we're just doing simple information about two numbers, so we'll just call it number info. To do this, we do when dot title, and inside the quotation marks, I'm sure you could guess, is our title. Okay, and if we run the application, boom, we opened up a window and it's called number info. Isn't that crazy? Just like that, we already took the application out of the terminal. This makes it really cool, obviously, if you want to make an executable out of your program, because then you can share it to anybody you'd like and they could open it and it'll pop up a new window instead of opening your command prompt and running code. The most basic object you're going to use in Tkinter is label, and this is going to print any text that you want on your page. So if we write title label equals label, and since we imported as asterisk in the beginning, we don't have to put a tk.label. We can just write label and it knows. So within label, we're going to add our arguments. And these arguments are going to modify the label to make it how we want it to be. The most basic one is text. So we put text equals, and then in our parentheses, we put what the text wants to say. So the name of our window is number info, but I'd also like a big flashy title on the homepage that says what the app's called. So we're just gonna do the same thing, number info. If you know CSS or HTML, then you're already familiar with these attributes. We're gonna do FG, which stands for foreground. Now this is gonna be the color of the actual text, the lettering. So if we do black, and we do our background color to white, to match the rest of the window. This will display transparent black text over our white window because the background is white, so it'll match the already existing background. If you change the background of your window, then you're going to want to change the background of your label unless you want an actual background behind the label to really make it pop. I'll show you what that means in a minute, but let's just keep going. After you created your label, the next main thing that you want to do is title underscore label dot config. What the config function allows you to do is change the font and the size. So in here, I'm gonna put, we'll just do Arial, you know, because we're basic. And then also in the parentheses, we're going to put 12 for a 12-point font. I also forgot you gotta put font equals before your font. Otherwise, the program doesn't know what you're specifying. And the last thing that we have to do is pack. So the pack function tells the program where your label is going to sit on a window, because without the specification, it doesn't know where to put it, right? So we're going to put pad X equals 10, pad Y equals 10. Now, obviously you can change these numbers, but what this means is that your padding on your X axis is going to be 10 pixels and your padding on your Y axis is going to be 10 pixels as well. So looking good, right? If we run this, we should have, boom, a window that says number info. And as you can see, there is still a little background on the text, and that's because this window didn't really make it an actually white background. So we're gonna change that and throw our own little flair into it. Going back to our actual window, we can write win.config, and we can put background for background colors equals black. In our label, we're gonna change this maybe to green, and we're going to make the background black. Let's run this one, and boom. We have green text on our black window, number info. That looks cool, right? The font's a little small, so I'm gonna bump it up to 24, and we got number info. So nice. Okay, so we're on the right track. I'm already envisioning it in my head, right? We need two boxes to take inputs for A and B, and then we need to pass those inputs from those boxes to our functions to calculate the report on the numbers, right? And then we need to print it in the window for the user to see. Also, a good practice is that when you're declaring objects, you want to put the parent window as the first parameter. This just ensures that it's going to be in your window, and this is very good for if you're getting more complex with multiple windows, and in the next video, we'll talk about multiple canvases. So first, we're gonna put A input equals text win, and we're gonna give it a height of 5 and a width of 5. We're gonna make the background white so we can see it on our black background, and then we're gonna pack it. If we run it, we have an input box that we can write anything we want. Now, for this example, it might be better to do a selection box that you can choose a number from. That would obviously restrain our input box to being only numbers, but in this case, we're going to allow all text and then just hope that the user inputs 2 numbers. If I was going to make this into a real application, I would handle anything that's not a number and maybe display an error message to the user. Also, the box is kind of big, so I'm gonna make it smaller. There we go. Can put a 3 in there. Fits perfectly. Okay, so I basically just copy and pasted for the B input box because it should just be the same thing, right? They're just gonna input a number. If we run this code, we have 2 boxes on top of each other. Now, what if you want them to be next to each other? What we would do instead is for the pack, we make our padding side equals left. And now we have 2 boxes that are side by side. So I kind of skipped ahead, but I've used what we've learned so far to create a label for both A and B. I made the color blue and I put the padding on side left. So with all of this, we get our window number info, A, our box for A, and B, our box for B. Pretty cool, right? Alright, so now we're going to get a button. Now this button is going to signal that the user has put in both their numbers and they're ready to receive a report on them. So we're going to call this button done. Done button. This is common in programming. BTN is short for button. We're going to do button equals button. And in here, we're going to declare win as our parent window. We're going to put text equals get results. We'll make the background green like our title. And we'll make our foreground white. So with our button now, we have a button that says get results. Look at that. That already looks cleaner than anything I've written in the terminal. Now, if you notice, if we put in 2 numbers and click get results, nothing happens. We have a dead button. Now in the button parameters, we have a parameter called command. And what command does is when the button is pressed, it's going to run a function. We'll call this function get results. Now in the function get results, we haven't even declared it yet, but I already know that we're going to need the numbers that the user inputted, right? We're going to need the numbers from our boxes. Now for A, we're going to do A input.get. And what this does is it's going to get everything that the user typed into the A input box. For our second parameter, we'll just do B input.get. Cool, right? Now the problem with this is that this command is going to get run even if your button isn't pressed yet. So what we gotta do is we gotta put lambda and colon. If you want to run multiple functions with one button press, you would put them in brackets like this, and you'd put a comma in between the two functions that you want to run. One thing that I forgot to mention is that with get, you do have to actually put parameters into it. We're going to do 1.0, and this stands for first line, first character of that line, and it's going to go all the way to the end. So we have our results function already written, but it's for our terminal. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to put this all into one big string. In get results, I'm going to declare a global variable. If you declare a variable as global and change it within the same function, it's going to be changed across all of your functions. So we'll put global results, and then we'll just start concatenating all of these strings to results. \n so that we can go to the next line. So after a little bit of debugging, I realized that if you're dealing with integers, obviously you have to typecast them. What this means is that this input.get returns a string value, right? Because we're typing into a text box. When we go to our logic, we have to typecast it so a equals integer a so that we can handle it as an integer and not a letter or a character. And then when I put it back into results, I typecasted it back into string. I don't think you have to do this, but it was just the most caveman way that I can make it happen for right now. So if you look, if we put 19 and we put 8, we get the sum, the difference, the product, the quotient, and the mod, all from pressing this green results button. Isn't that cool? So now we want to put this into our number info, right? So to put the results actually in the window, we're going to put this logic into our window creation if results doesn't equal nothing, basically if we calculated the results of the two numbers. Results label equals label, put text equals results, foreground color equals white, background color equals black. What I did is I made our window global, and in our results, we just destroyed it in our results. So if we run our application, we should get number info, put in the middle right there. We'll put 18, and we'll put 5. Get results, it's gonna open a new window, and there we go. From 18 and 5, we have the sum is 23. The difference is 13. 18 minus 5. Yeah, okay. Just had to make sure. Product is 90, probably. I don't know. I'm not really that good at math. Quotient is 3.6, and the mod is 3, because 5 times 3 is 15. 18 minus 15 is 3. So there you have it. That is how we create a basic application in Python. It's pretty easy, right? I hope this video gave you some insight on how to create an application, and I hope you guys take creative liberty to do some crazy stuff with this. In the next video, I want to go over more detail about how to create canvases and how to format things, stack windows on top of each other, input some images maybe, and also maybe talk a little bit about objects and classes so that you can save data. Wouldn't it be cool if every time you open the application, it's saved the data from the last time you used it? That's what we'll be going over in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, drop a like, a comment of what you guys want to see next, and subscribe to stay up to date. I'll see you guys in the next video.